Hey y'all, John from the Orange and Brown Report here. We're going to take a look at one of my favorite plays from the 2016 season, Jamar Taylor's Week 3 interception of Ryan Tannehill. Quick backstory with Jamar Taylor. He was a 2011 or 2012 second round pick out of Boise State. Uh, didn't do anything at all with Miami. In fact, he was a disappointment. He was pretty sorry. In fact, I believe he ended the 2015 season per PFF as the worst ranked cornerback in the NFL. So or Cleveland picked him up, I should say, with let's see, I want to say it was swapping in 6 round picks with the Dolphins. End of the 2015 draft. He was sort of a throw-in, and for whatever reason, the light sort of clicked on here. Particularly once he was moved inside, he seemed to find his niche, and I believe he ended the season again per PFF in the low 80s. So he was certainly a pleasant surprise, particularly on a defense that had a lot of room for improvement to say the least. That's probably an understatement. So let's get into the play itself here. We're looking at a 2nd and 10. Christian Kirksey just made an outstanding run stop on first down here. So we want to think about this play in terms of down and distance. It always helps when you're evaluating tape, or even if you're just watching a game on television, you're trying to predict, what might happen next. Think about down and distances. Try and get yourself in the head of the, opposing coordinators, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. In this case, a 2nd and 10. Ray Horton has to be thinking this is playing the percentages at least, the tendencies. This is most likely to be a pass. So we're going to dial up one of our, a defense that's going to excel against stopping the pass, or what we think is one of our better, pass stop coverages. So we're going to look at a version of a cover 2. This is going to be a 2 deep, 5 under zone. A lot of people associate 2 deep, 5 under with the famous Tampa 2 from the mid 90s with Monte Kiffin and Tony Dungy. You're not going to see it as an everyday base coverage at this day and age in the NFL. There are just too many built-in weaknesses with the way the game's developed. First, it's really tough to get a pass rush unless you have some absolute studs on the line, because it's extremely difficult to blitz out of it. So if you can't get a pass rush before, then quarterback's going to be back there all day, pardon me, with time to scan the field and throw. It also doesn't play well against the run in many spots. You can't drop your strong safety. You can't include him in the box in your run fits if you want to give him a chance to credibly get back to his half field responsibility on a pass. So that that puts added pressure on the front 7 to stop. So you can imagine what it's going to look like against those heavy formations where you have multiple tight ends, running back, fullbacks, and so on. You might find yourself a man short in the box when that happens. So again, it's not a base anymore. This is a situational pass coverage, and in this case, facing the 2nd and long, this is a perfect spot to deploy it. So I found this play interesting because of Taylor's technique here. We're going to see something called cliff, C-L-I-F-F, cliff technique from him. So we're going to call him a soft corner, S-O-F-T, soft corner. So he's about 6 yards off the wide receiver here to what we call the backside. And by backside, I simply mean away from the strength of the formation. So we see this tight bunch right here of 3 receivers. We see this single receiver here backside. And what offenses will oftentimes do in these spots is they'll tag this receiver with some type of quick game route. And by quick game, we mean a slant, a hitch, some type of little 5 and in, a drag, bubble flat. Variety of stuff where the ball is going to be out of the quarterback's hands very quickly here. And the reason they work so well is because, if you just draw a line right down the middle or down the hash here, you can see that the numbers are skewed to this side of the field. We have Taylor over here on the outside. Then we move over to our next potential pass defender, at least at his level, and we're all the way back to a linebacker here over the guard. So we've got a lot of room to work with here, and that's one of the reasons that teams, offenses specifically, like running these types of quick game routes in the spot here. You've got a lot of extra room to work, and you end up with nice throwing windows. So the clip technique, here's the idea behind it. We're at 6 yards right here, and what Taylor wants to do, because we're not jumping up here and pressing, which you will often see in a cover 2, a zone under. We want to disrupt the wide receiver's release. Because we're not doing that, we're going to sit here at about 6 yards, and we're going to alternate our eyes between the quarterback and the receiver. And the idea here is on any sort of 3-step game, like let's take a slant or a hitch, we're going to jump the route. We're going to try and read the quarterback's eyes. We're going to read his shoulder. We're going to read his elbow, his lead elbow, his body demeanor. We're going to scan between the quarterback and between the wide receiver and look at his steps. And if we get the quick game, particularly a slant or a hitch here, we're going to try and jump that route. So we'll get into the specifics of that clip technique and the eyes and the feet, as I mentioned before, in just a moment. Let's go through the play a couple times. We'll run through full speed the first time, then I'll run it through a slower speed, and we'll go from there. So here's the play itself. And let's slow it down a little bit here. And there it is. So let's get into technique here. So right now we see this tilt inside from both our cornerbacks. You can see their eyes are inside here. This is zone coverage, so we do not need to keep our eye on the hip of the receiver here and up top here. Again, eyes inside. We're reading they're probably reading through to could be end man line of scrimmage or the tackles here, or some combination to the backfield for the run pass key. As a general tip or general device you can use to pick them out yourself here, go with a high hat, low hat read. So if the tackle's head pops up, he's probably pass setting. We're probably looking at a pass. If his hat stays low, we get a low hat read. He's probably driving forward. He's keeping that pad level low. So we're probably looking at a run. It's pretty reliable. There are teams, in fact, most teams, all teams in the NFL, most teams in college, they'll play with those reads a little bit or with those keys, but they're pretty reliable indicators. So something to watch for. So again, we've got the eyes inside right here, and again, we're starting with the eyes. We need to have our eyes in the proper location on our pre-snap key here, and then we'll start our scan. So as we go through the play, what we want to do after we see the eyes here is we want to move on to the feet. So again, eyes and feet go together. So clip technique is going to keep the cornerback essentially at his 6-yard depth right here, while allowing him to mirror the receiver's steps. And by mirror, we mean if the receiver, let's say he stems the route inside, the cornerback's going to be able to stay in front of him inside, or if he stems the route outside, the cornerback's going to be able to mirror again and just keep him in front of his body as he moves outside here. The important part though is that we do not want to lose any depth here from our 6-yard cushion. So think about it as the edge of a cliff. That's where the title comes from. We've got, let me see if I can use my drawing tools here. So we've got our little cliff right here, and Taylor does not want to move backwards at all. If he were to move backwards and then receive the opportunity to jump on, let's say, a slant or something similar coming inside here, he's not going to have the room necessarily to make that play, to get in and pick the ball off or record a pass breakup. There's just going to be too much distance to cover. So he wants to hold that line right there. So that's where those cliff steps take effect. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move our feet parallel. We're not going to click our heels. We don't want our feet touching each other. If we have to plant a foot in the ground and break and the feet cross or even the feet hit together, that's going to slow down. You could potentially trip, stumble. We need to keep them clean, and we need to be able to plant and drive on the ball. So as we go through the play here, again in slow motion, let's watch his feet. Let's watch how he takes those nice, short, controlled parallel steps, continues to keep his center of gravity low here, so he's sort of coiled and ready to break on the ball, and then we'll move from there. So again, let's focus on the eyes until the snap, and then let's go to the feet. So we have eyes, and we can see he's received his run pass key. This is a pass, so his eyes are in. He's reading the drop right here. He's probably scanning between the quarterback and the wide receiver. You don't necessarily, in fact, you don't need to move your head back and forth. You can simply scan via your eyes. I think it's a little quicker and easier that way. And let's go now to the feet here, and we'll see the clip technique we just talked about. Again, these short parallel steps, heels aren't touching, and we're also not losing ground. Let's go back and let's watch the feet again. So 1, 2, 3. And the idea is, if you control your steps, by that third step, you can almost think of them as read steps. By the time that third step hits, if your depth is correct, and if you're not getting too kinetic with the steps, it's almost like where you're not doing a foot fire thing where you're just jabbing them in the ground as quickly as you can. When that third step hits, you should be in position to break on the ball if you get one of those quick routes like we see here. Otherwise, you'll play catch man technique, where you'll catch the receiver. You'll then escort him off to the safety in the back half field here, or to a linebacker if he breaks inside. You get on the his low hip or his hip closer to the cornerback, because you have help over top, you have help inside, and ultimately the cornerback is also going to be responsible for anything that comes out to the flat right here. So we see the break. Let's get this off. He actually beats the receiver to the ball here. Now let me slow this down a bit further. Something interesting I found here is we talked about that mirror technique before, where we're taking our steps either inside or outside, depending on the wide receiver's stem. So if he's moving outside, like so here, we would take our, let's try that again. We would take our steps this way. If he were to release inside, we would take our clip steps this way, because we want to keep our body in front of him at all points here. Now we don't see it from Taylor on this particular play. You notice that the wide receiver immediately stems inside right. Stems sort of straight up field vertically. But Taylor's taking these steps inside. Now I don't know if this is something that was coached up by the game plan for the week. Maybe they had a tell on this specific formation, that, or down and distance maybe, that there was a backside slant coming. He could be freelancing for all I know. That's a possibility as well. But generally, when you see the vertical or straight up field release from the receiver, you're not going to see the cornerback slide either way here. It's more of a buzz the feet type thing to keep in front of you and go from there. So let's turn this off again and focus again on the release here. And notice how, even though the receiver's pushing straight up field, Taylor's taking these steps inside, which again leads me to believe that maybe this is some sort of game planning thing, or something that they picked up via film study, and they're expecting the slant here. Okay, and we can see here, you scan and notice the vertical release, but we already have a single parallel clip step inside here. Even further inside here, it's like Taylor's running the route for him. You can see that the receiver is almost a yard outside here. And this is freelance, and not necessarily going to be a good thing if we don't get a slant, because you'll notice that if the receiver wants to get outside here on any side or any type of intermediate or vertical route, Taylor's in no position to reroute him or force him wide or make him work through his body. That's going to put pressure on the safety, because now the safety has to get from inside or outside his hash here all the way to the sideline. So if it's freelancing, this is one of those attaboy things that worked out awesome. But if it doesn't, and this guy hits you with a some sort of outbreaking route, particularly in what we call the honey hole, which is just a large sideline hole here in cover 2 that I would love to draw. There we go. Sort of this area right here. Move it down. This is an area that teams will often aim for, or shoot their routes at in 2 deep zone under, because the cornerback has his flat responsibilities up here. The safety, he has to play his half field, so getting over to the sideline here takes a lot of range, and oftentimes you're going to find that soft spot, and teams will go for it here. But didn't happen here, so Taylor's safe. So we'll go through ahead. We're looking at the steps, and he's still, get this working, he's still pivoted inside, and you can see he reads and he jumps. Interesting part here, again, to me, is watching him read the quarterback, and just how quickly he gets the break here. You'll notice we have eyes, and with this slant here, the way it's timed up, as soon as Tannehill's third step hits the ground, plants his back foot, he wants to deliver the ball. These are all based on timing, these NFL routes. So Tannehill's expecting the receiver to be in a certain portion or a certain spot of the field. The receiver expects the ball to be out at a certain portion or a certain spot of the field. So in order for the timing to match up exactly, the receiver is going to take a certain amount of steps. In this case, it's a 3-step slant. So on his third step, he's going to break on that outside foot and stem it inside here, or break it inside. And Tannehill's going to release when that third step hits the ground. So what Taylor's looking at, again, because he knows that he's trying to sit on the 3-step games, he's waiting for that third step to drop. Then he's going to look at Tannehill's shoulder and elbow, and that'll indicate the release of the ball here. So as we can see, it breaks right here, and Taylor's already off, which again tells me that he's either freelancing this or there's some sort of Taylor pickup that they acquired by a film study, and they're expecting this route here because, again, he's going to beat the receiver to the spot, and that just generally doesn't happen. So there he is. My ball doesn't get any return. Down he goes, but we'll take the ball here. So let's go back. Let's look at that one more time from the beginning. We'll keep it in slow motion. And again, we're focusing on eyes, we're focusing on feet, and we're focusing on my line here. Those nice parallel steps that keep Taylor at his 6 yards. So here we go. And maybe we'll get there. There it is. We have eyes inside. We have 1, 2, 3. Good break. Nice and low. Eyes, nose over the toes. My ball. All right. Well, thanks for checking out the play with me, guys. We'll keep these coming. Maybe we'll start working a bit on a script and some at least more professional looking visual aspects. But until then, this is John from the Orange and Brown Report signing off.